Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Kiwi Lads channel. In this video, I'll be doing my preview for the upcoming final of the Singapore Sevens between Fiji and New Zealand. But if you do enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. But nonetheless, let's get straight into this preview. Right, so the two matches of the semi-finals have just taken place. Fiji, they were victorious over Australia, and then New Zealand, they were victorious with a final minute try over the Irish. So now the final is booked. It is going to be a rematch of what we saw for the Tokyo Olympics final. That one side got the gold, one side got the silver, and that side that got the gold in that matchup was Fiji. So it's going to be interesting to see whether or not they can do it again. But this is just going to be a short wee preview where we look through what the teams have done throughout the competition, the squads, who's in form, and who I think will be able to win this match. It's going to be a tricky one to pick. Of course, as a New Zealander, I should be saying New Zealand, but as you will find out later on, it's going to be a tricky matchup. But nonetheless, we will start off with the form of the Fijians. They were able to top their group. That was Pool D. They were sitting on 7 points. They did have a loss to Ireland in their very first game of the Singapore Sevens, but from then, they have been able to find some very nice form, including a very impressive victory over Japan, in which they were able to get the win 62-0, which is very impressive indeed. Throughout then, they went on to their quarterfinals matchup, and when we saw this one, Fiji taking on South Africa, on paper, it looked like it was going to be an absolute phenomenal game, and that is exactly what it was. But in the end, the Fijians, they were able to be victorious in that game, and because of that victory, they moved on to the semi-final, in which they had Australia. So no easy games for Fiji throughout the quarterfinal or the semi-final stages, and then they were victorious over the Australians. They fought hard throughout that game, and now they find themselves in the final. Then New Zealand, they had a slightly different path to the final. They were also top of their group, although they have not lost a game as of yet in the competition. They are 5 from 5, so trying to remain undefeated, and if they were able to do so, that would be the only side in the competition to be undefeated throughout the whole Singapore Sevens. But New Zealand, they had their first game up against Argentina. It was a pretty close one, but they were able to win it by the 2 points. Then, after topping their group, they went through to their quarterfinal fixture. In that game, they actually had Samoa, so not a very easy opposition to have, definitely because we've seen recently Samoa have been on fire in the Sevens competition. They were very close in their last matchup, unfortunately just falling up short up against the USA. Other than that, they've had some very close games, including their game up against New Zealand, at which New Zealand were able to win at 22 points to 14. And that game was a lot closer than that scoreline says, as Samoa were in it till the final minute of the match. And from there, New Zealand moved on to their semi-final matchup. They did have their game up against Ireland, and all you can say about that is you got to feel for the Irish. It was so close. Ireland almost getting their first ever victory over New Zealand in the Sevens circuit. They were ahead at the full-time siren, but the only problem was the play hadn't finished, and New Zealand, after a couple penalties, were able to get into the corner, score the try, and that broke the hearts of the Irish. But New Zealand, they booked their way to the final, and now they are going to have the opportunity to take on Fiji. It's the undefeated streak versus the gold medal, and it should be an awesome clash of the two sides. Now looking through at a few of the names in the squads, Talatolo for me has been phenomenal throughout the last little while. He seems to have really found his shape in the midfield, and then it creates the opportunity for the guys on the outside if he even needs them. This man is about 6'5" and just manages to gallop through gaps, is the best way to describe it. He's just phenomenal, and I think he is going to be one of the keys in the final for the Fijians. Also playing quite well, Jerry Tawai, that experience side of things. He actually was in charge of that chat that they had at halftime in their game up against Australia. They were struggling a little bit. He had a chat to all of them, and he just really, I guess, increase the team morale enough for the boys to be able to fire up for that second half and get themselves that victory. And that's going to be so important in this game, because you're going to need to keep your composure and you can't give away penalties, which I think Fiji, overall the discipline's actually been very good for this tournament. I know they normally get a bad rep for that kind of discipline side of things, but I'd say they're actually pretty close to being around that midway, if not maybe on the lower side of teams giving away penalties throughout this competition. So if the penalty count is low in that final against the Fijians, I would say that that is probably where they can really save themselves a few points against them, because you've only got 6 on the field. There's going to be even more gaps than there already is on a Sevens field, although the defense not creating too many gaps at the moment. The Fijians, 2 other players I'm going to very quickly mention for the Fijians, Nathunu and also Naduvalu, because he has been able to score plenty of tries throughout the games, and someone who's helped him set them up, Nathunu. So that is why I gave him that shout out. Now looking through at the Kiwis, for me, it's tricky to pick just a couple players who are going to be key for them, because at the end of the day, you're playing against Fiji. They are not an easy side to beat. They are not an easy side to even get close with at times, but New Zealand are going to have to try Regan Ware. I think he is going to be important for the Kiwis. He was able to score in that semi-final up against Ireland and also seems to just keep that structure in the back line that they do require. Tony Nshu, also another one to watch out for the Kiwis. And then I was actually going to have Andrew Newstub, although we did see right at the end of that last game, we actually saw that he was limping off the field, so I don't believe he's going to be available for this match, which is going to be a huge hit for the Kiwis. Someone else, though, that I'm going to say is important is Dylan Collier. Now, I haven't said Sam Dixon, as his discipline's been a little bit rough. He's probably gotten more yellow cards for himself than the whole Fijian side. That's how bad it's been at times. He's got 2 in about the space of 3 or 4 games, which is not ideal and something you cannot afford because it's the other side of things. It's the role reversal. If New Zealand only have 6 on there, imagine the damage Fiji's going to do in that matchup. But I think we got to the stage of now I have to try and give a prediction. Do I go with my home side, New Zealand, or do I back the Fijians? It's a tricky decision, but I have thought about this one long and hard, and I have decided that Fiji are going to win this match. At the end of the day, if New Zealand win it, I'll wear it on the chin because my predictions are normally way off anyway, but at the end of the day, I think Fiji are going to win it, and my score prediction for this game, I am going to say Fiji win it 22 points to 17. I think it's going to be close. It's going to be a last-minute try, maybe about 30 to 40 seconds left on the clock. That's very specific. That's just aiming to shoot myself in the foot, isn't it? Might as well say who the try scorer is going to be. It's going to be Kana Kaivata. If that is right, I'm going to be very concerned that I somehow nailed it, but I probably won't. New Zealand could win this game by 10. It's hard to tell, but one thing is for sure is I am very excited for this game. We will be live for that game on the channel, so be sure to check that out also. But nonetheless, thank you all very much for tuning in. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. But nonetheless, I will see you all for the next one.